مستر سمير. مستر سمير. مستر سمير.
هو ممكن تجيب الشغل وتعمله بكرة.
مستر سمير.
عمرو معلمين بتعلم العصي على شناوه.
مستر سمير. مستر سمير. You can start, Mr. Samir. Share your screen.
Okay, say. Yes. Before sharing the screen, before the break, we have shared a question for brainstorming. What are the phases of mentoring? What do you think, dear participants? What are phases of the process of mentoring? Could we get your great input on the chat box, please? Pre-diagnosis, Mrs. Amani, during and post, thank you so much. So pre, during, post, thank you so much. What else? What are the phases of the process of mentoring? Starting, this will define different things of what we are going to do. Building up a good relationship, yes, Mr. Ahmed. We need to build a good relationship between mentors and mentees before we start the process. Thank you so much. What else? Thinking out of the box, yes, Mr. Eid. Mind your mentoring language, yes, Mr. Sharif. That's great. Thank you so much. What we could see in all your great comment that we need to be prepared for the process of mentoring. We need to learn more about mentees, their backgrounds. We need to mind our mentoring language. We need to identify their needs. We can't say, man, we need to enable their growth. Yes, I will do mute them. Preparing, negotiating, enabling, coming to closure. Mr. Joshua, thank you so much. Preparing, analyzing. Thank you so much. Kindly, could you see the slide entitled process?
No, you should open your PowerPoint first, Mr. Samir, because it
Okay,
doesn't
sir.
show.
Again, okay, I'll do that
It's the
again.
same
Okay.
idea as before.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yes,
Thank you so much.
that works.
So as you all said, thank you so much for all your input. The first step is preparing. As you said, we prepare our mentees to accept the process of mentoring. We help them to get ready. This is the same as the process of warm up that we do inside our classrooms. We are not starting the process of teaching, and we are not asking our students to learn from the very beginning, but we do some kind of warm up. So we need our mentees to get ready. So we need to build some kind of good relationship. We need to develop some kind of trust. I know that it will not be the highest level of trust, but we need to start of trust. By getting ready, we mean that we need that we would like our mentees to be interested in this process. We don't want them to get bored from the very beginning. We need them to be fully aware that they are about to start something which is beneficial, something which is sustainable, learn with each other, and at the same time help others and impact on their students. When we do this, then we move to the second step. The second step is, or the second phase of this process is negotiating. And by negotiating, we mean establishing different agreements. We agree on the tools we are going to use to do this mentoring. Are we going to do one-to-one mentoring? Are we going to do group mentoring? Are we going to do distant mentoring? What are the different boundaries and timelines and the plans, how we could deliver the mentoring sessions? How could we do the meetings? How could we make sure that we help each other learn from the process of mentoring? So we have different things to agree on in the phase of establishing agreements, and the other future two phases will be based on two things: the level of trust and the good relationship we developed in the preparing phase, and at the same time how we define the agreements and how we establish the agreements in the negotiating phase. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Said, is everything is okay?
Yes, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just check. The third phase is enabling growth. How we facilitate the learning process for our mentees. We started a good relationship. We develop and build upon this relationship and the trust. We agreed on different agreements, on limits, on resources, on how we will meet and how we will interact with each other. Now it's time to share more resources, to share more practice, to observe the teachers when they are teaching, to elicit the feedback from them, to give them role models, to recommend them or refer them back to different resources. So it's time to facilitate learning for our mentees, and at the same time, it is the time for us as mentors to develop our growth, to have more mentoring experience, to be able to deal with more and more mentees with different backgrounds, with different learning styles, with different backgrounds. Finally, we come to the last one, which is coming to closure, or what we call looking back and moving forward. Looking back at what? Looking back at the level of relationship and trust we have developed, looking back at the agreements we have developed and how we made use of such agreements to facilitate learning, looking back at the progress of the process of learning and how the process of mentoring impacted on teachers when they teach inside the classrooms and their students' progress and learning at the same time. What about moving forward to take this closure of the process of mentoring as a step forward? How will mentees build upon the experience inside their classrooms, and how possibly they could help others? And now it's time for mentees to change into mentors. And again, as we said before, this is one of the core values of Relo Mentor program, which is developing the ripple effect. You develop 10 mentors, they help, for example, 50 mentees. Then the other 50, those 50 mentees, one day will come to a closure, and then they are mentors, and they will help 100 mentees. The 100 mentees will do the same, and so on. So we all the time we sustain the process of teacher professional development. All the time we keep the impact of the mentoring process nurturing inside the classrooms and inside the schools. There are benefits for mentors to develop their experience as mentors and as experienced teachers helping others, and at the same time for mentees to be mentors and to help others, and so on. So the impact goes to more teachers and at the same time to more students. These are the 4 phases of the process of mentoring. So we start by preparing, by establishing relationship and developing trust. Then we move to negotiating when we establish agreements. Then we enable the growth of teachers by facilitating learning. Then we come to closure when we celebrate and we have some kind of feedback and reflection. We look back to what we have achieved to celebrate our successes, and at the same time to see what's next, what to do later on. These are the process of, or the 4 phases of the process of mentoring. Now it's time to come to what we call challenges and solutions. And here we will get back and stop sharing and ask you in the chat box, please. Let's see what are as a mentor, what challenges you face? You have recently started your mentoring journey. What the challenges you face? Let's get your great input as always. Let's get to the chat box and see what the mentoring challenges you face. And if you have a success story overcoming this challenge, please tell us in a very brief way. So we have working towards achieving the learning objectives, the mindset, thank you, Mr. Sharif. Assessing mentees' background, yes, thank you, Mrs. Nashwa. Other perspectives of mentoring, yes, Mrs. Ghada. Some people do not learn about mentoring and they couldn't see what benefits it has. Building up a good relationship, yes, one of these. Routines, yes, and bureaucracy. Students are not interested, yes. Traditional way of teaching and supervision, the mentees are used, yes. Resistance, thank you, Mr. Sharif. Change resistance is one of the key challenges. Traditional ways of teaching, learning, and supervision, thank you, Mrs. Asma. Persuading the IGs, but I would like to say not all of them, some of them, because when I started here, I would highlight it's not something personal, but something it's personal related to professional. When I started my mentoring journey in Monofia in 2017, I was so lucky to have a very open mindset IG. Once I took the plan which I have developed in the practicum days of the Relo Mentor program, he gave the instructions to help them, to help me develop this plan, implement this plan. He gave orders, and then I could do this in, I think, 7 out of 9 idaras in Munufiyya. And I could do this for the senior supervisors, then supervisors, and then the senior teachers and heads of departments of English, math, and science, those who teach English. This is why I started an instructional coaching education community service initiative in Munufiyya, and I think it was somehow beneficial, and I continued it on a simple online platform which is called ELTBD, a public Facebook group I started, and it is still on. Yes, Miss Amani, Corona is something, and I could see yesterday distance. Diversion of mentees' mindsets towards modern approaches of teaching. Yes, Mr. Mahdi, thank you so much. All your, yes, no desire, Mr. Muhammad, yes, traditional ideas. Thank you so much for all your great input. So if we could analyze all the great input you have on the chat box, we could summarize or do a brief on all of them, and let's see or get to the share screen and see how we could overcome such challenges. Could you see my screen, Mr. Saeed?
Yes,
My
yes,
screen.
yes. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you so much. First of all, as you said, mentees are not interested in the process of mentoring, are not interested in professional development. They could see that it is a process which does not pay at all or impact them. So what to do in such case? In such case, we need to help develop mentees' motivation. Why they are not interested? Simply because they don't have both extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Why do we do mentoring? Why we get into this process? If you help them to get why you do mentoring for them, it is something that will impact on you personally and professionally. Personally, later on, you could be a mentor, you could help other teachers. It will help you as a skillful teacher, experienced teacher. So if you could help develop the motivation, that would be great. If the school or the idara or the supervision department help you to give some kind of incentives, awards, certificates, I know that financial control or giving financial incentives is something difficult because it's related to rules, related to laws, different things. But you could encourage your school principal, and some of them are very cooperative. You could some supervisors, some idara officials, senior officials to help with you developing this kind of motivation. The second challenge is that priorities are not defined. Some interested mentees have lots and lots of things they would like to develop through the process of mentoring, but they don't know which to start with and which to keep for working on later on. In this case, what we need to do, we need to talk to mentees, as you said in the chat box. We need to talk to them, to build a relationship, to develop trust. But when we get their trust, then we could elicit and act upon the priorities. If the mentees, if we do some kind of pre-mentoring assessment or needs analysis, if we do this, we would have, for example, a list of 20 or 30 items we need to work on. But the semester or the mentoring process through a month, or whatever the time limit you have, is limited. Then you talk to the mentees and agree on, for example, top 5 priorities we are going to do in this mentoring round or in this mentoring session. Then we will move to other priorities and so on. So it's as we said from in the very beginning, it's a sustainable process. It's continuous, and when we keep it continuous, it turns into sustainable. Then we have one of the challenges is that mentees have unrealistic expectations. And when we say mentees, please, we mean some mentees, because generalization is a great mistake. Mentees have unrealistic expectations. Some mentees think that the mentor will help them develop their pronunciation. The mentor or mentors will help them develop their lesson planning, classroom management, will help contact the إدارة, the مديرية, the supervision, the قطاع المعاهد الأزهرية to overcome all the challenges. But this is unrealistic. What to do in this case? We need to develop trust and communication with mentees. When we have trust, we will help them agree on what things we as mentors could do to help them. There are things that we could do and help with, and there are things are out of our control. So we change the unrealistic expectations into realistic expectations. We change the so many priorities into a few priorities, and then we work on. All is related to trust and communication, as you see. Some mentees resist change, as you said in the chat box. Yes. Some think that, for example, this mentoring process is done simply because we have a notification from the sector of المعاهد الأزهرية. So we need to follow the routine and we need to act as if we do this. Some other mentees, on the contrary, they don't do this. How is this beneficial? Will you give us more money to do this? No, we are not going to help with this. And some or a few of them might try to destroy the process of mentoring. Please do not panic. Please do not take this personally. If someone stands in a mentoring room while you are doing a mentoring session, or if someone had a comment on a Facebook platform you have started, or on an online session you do, please do not panic at all. Please do not take this personally. Do not take this as if it is something to offend you. No, some people might take the context or the challenges of the context that they are in against you, as if they are against you, or as if they are against the process. What you need to do is to help the mentees get what and how to change. One of the psychological and the human challenge of change resistance is that people do not know what to change, how to change, and why to change. So one of your great jobs as mentors is to help them know what we are going to change, why we are going to change this, what are the benefits we are working for, and how to do the change. Some people might get what we need to change. Some people might get how to change, but why? This is related to the motivation, again, we have just spoken about. So when you help mentees, it's a matter of professional development. It's a matter of impact on your students. It's a matter of helping you to be a better teacher. It's a matter of getting a good report from Sheikh al-Mahad and the supervisor, because some people would like to do what they should do related to the authority, and that's all. For those, we need to provide them with the minimum requirement, and we help them move from this very narrow perspective of teacher professional development into a wider scope. Yes, you need to follow what the esteemed Sheikh al-Mahad and the supervisor would like to do, and then this will impact on you and help you move forward. So we take things gradually and step by step. The third, the next challenge is that some participants cannot manage time or focus. We agree that we will have a 30-minute mentoring session. We get into lots of politics, talking about public affairs, and time flies. No, we need to set timelines. We need to set focus for this. So develop and follow timelines and plans. This will be a good solution for the problem of not managing time and focus. This session, we are going to talk about how to teach listening for for young learners. So we are going to keep focusing on teaching listening, or teaching speaking, or teaching writing, whatever the topic is. So please develop a timeline keep or insist on managing the time and help others manage the time and the focus at the same time. If some participants have more questions, have more focus, more topics to discuss, then you could move this to the after session time or a new session later on. The next challenge is some people think that mentoring is sometimes seasonal. Something we do in the first semester and that's all. Something we do in the mid-year holiday because we have lots of time after marking the students' exam papers and that's all. Or this is related to promotion time. Some people think this. So our key challenge is to help them know, learn, and act upon that mentoring is a sustainable process. We need to do it all the time because this impacts on our skills and practice and experience as teachers, and at the same time impact on our students. So we need to accept and act upon mentees' change of interest. We are all humans. Sometimes we are completely interested in something. In other time, this high climax of interest might go down and we are not interested in this. As mentors, you need to be aware when those teachers have full or maximum interest and when this curve goes down. Of course, during exam times when teachers and supervisors have lots of work to do with exams, observing the students in exam rooms, marking the exam papers, of course, their interest in teacher professional development and mentoring will go down. So you need to be aware to when they have full or high interest and when they have some kind of low interest. And you need to develop timelines, focus, ways to develop the motivation at different times that suits different levels of interest. These are some of the challenges and some of the solutions. And no, there is no mentor who could give you a a recipe for what could be the best solution for any challenge. It's a matter of you find a solution, you try, you find a challenge, then you try a solution, then you reflect and get feedback on how this solution work out. And again, we will say this: the solution that might work in an Azhar institute in Komombo in Aswan might not work in an Azhar institute in Imbaba in Cairo. The solution that might work with teachers in North Sinai might not work with teachers in Marsa Matruh. I know that they are teaching the same subject, they are doing the same job, but again, the context, the teachers, the resources are totally different. So we need to be fully aware of that and act upon this diversity. Again, not everything in mentoring is related to challenges. Of course, there are lots of opportunities. First of all, mentoring helps to support early career teachers. When you have novice teachers, you could provide other experienced teachers to help them, and they will be observing their lessons, they will be giving and getting feedback from them, they will be helping them all the time inside the school or the institute. Again, mentoring is something that helps us to disseminate experienced teachers' expertise. On the other hand, we have early career teachers who need to learn from practice, and at the same time, we have human asset or human resources who are our experienced teachers. The experience of those teachers should be shared with early career teachers. Mentoring help us to do this. We need to build mentor-mentees relationship and trust. Again, as you said in the chat box response, yes, it's a matter of relationship and trust building. This will help keep the process of mentoring very easy, very beneficial, and at the same time impactful. Develop growth of mentors and mentees. Some people think that mentoring is something that is beneficial for mentees because they might be early career teachers or novice teachers. And for mentors, it is some kind of sharing experiences only. No, when mentors go through the process of mentoring, they learn more, they develop their practice, they develop with more and more mentees, they overcome lots and lots of challenges, they try different solutions, they test what might work well in a certain context and what might not work well. So it's a growth for both mentors and mentees at the same time. This mentoring help to facilitate teacher training programs. Uh, what we have learned from lots and lots of teacher training program is that people or teachers come to the training room, they have very nice context inside the training room, they get very good sessions, and they went away. When we continue the mentoring process after the training sessions or after the training programs, we keep the teacher training sustainable and we keep it impactful on the ground, inside classrooms, inside schools, inside institutes. So it is something to back the teacher training. And now there is a great shift from teacher training to teacher professional development. Mentoring is one of the tools or one of the great tools that help us to do this facilitation of teacher training programs. This is to keep teacher professional development. If you would like to keep the professional development going on, and teachers need to do this professional development until they retire. It's not related to that, to something that I have 20 years of or 20 years plus experience of teaching. I need no more professional development. No, technology is changing, education is changing, assessment is changing. We have different new shifts in education, in teaching, in life, and technology. So we need to keep our teachers developing themselves professionally. These are some of the opportunities that mentoring help us to do. Now it's time to cope with the global challenge. And soon, inshallah, the global challenge of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic will end all over the world, inshallah. The distant mentoring. Due to the lockdown, due to stopping schools, stopping university study, everything is locked down. So the solution is distance mentoring. This is to use what? To use modern technology like what we are using now, like Zoom, to go through remote mentoring. You stay at home, but you change this lockdown from a challenge into an opportunity. So the mentors contact their mentees or their participants via different electronic tools, such as emails, telephone calls, Skype, Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams. Now we have lots and lots of technology tools that help us to meet while we are staying at home. We could share our screens, we could share videos, resources, we could get and give feedback. So the challenge of the coronavirus showed that we have alternatives, showed that we could overcome all the challenges related to the lockdown and closing of everything. How could we develop this distance mentoring? There are different ways to do this. First of all, we need to allow time to build relationships with teachers. Again, as any face-to-face mentoring, even in remote or distance or virtual mentoring, we need to have time to build relationships. This might take more time than face-to-face because we meet through phone calls and through the virtual tools, but we need to allow time for this. Do not be in a rush to start the process of mentoring until you have some kind of good relationship and trust with teachers. We need to develop plans and strengthen our commitment. You are, as mentors and as mentees, you are committed to do the process of mentoring, and you are committed to do this remotely. But we need to have or to change this commitment or turn this into concrete plans, into timelines, into plans, sub-plans, into activities of mentoring. We need to listen actively and avoid interruptions, because when we talk to each other on the phone, when we have a WhatsApp group, when we have a Skype, Zoom, or Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams meeting, we need to help each other, listen to each other, because when we listen to each other, we learn more about our needs, our backgrounds, our current situation, and this is part of the human interaction we need to do in this challenging time. We need to communicate frequently between meetings. If you have a Zoom meeting, between two online meetings, you need to contact your mentees in groups, in pairs, or individually. You need to phone them, to WhatsApp them, to have some kind of relation and feedback, get and give feedback in between the different meetings. This will help develop the distance mentoring. We need to use technology for better communication. How? If you text someone through WhatsApp and you could see that your message didn't get to your mentee well, then you need to phone him or her. If you could, if you do something or you try to facilitate something and the impact or the benefit did not show to happen in the same way you would like, then you need to go to have more communication, and you need to search for more facilitating tools to do this. You need to be spontaneous, not to show off, not to be up in a way that's different to your normal way. You need to try to meet face to face at least once. If you could do this, and again, you need to follow the health instructions imposed by the local authority of health in your area, in your country. You need to follow this. If you could do this, if you couldn't do this, then you need to find more and more ways to communicate with your teachers or with your mentees. These are some of the ways that could help develop the distance mentoring.
Mr. Samir, excuse me, we are running out of time.
Okay.
We'll be back in a minute. Excuse me. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Stop
Okay,
sharing, please, to allow me
okay,
to
I'll do.
schedule.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We have a question when we get back.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, yes. Go ahead. Can I use the chat box?
Yes.
Yes. Challenging mentees. What do you think? Who are challenging mentees? Let's get your input through the chat box, please.